Welcome to the WinEH podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacey.
All right, so right now we have Michael Launer. You are a founder and general manager of Annelida, and you guys have an amazing site in Nisku, all dedicated to your
soil
employees.
Health and diverting green waste from ending up in the landfill, feeding that to our 100 million worm employees.
Right. So you are the largest employer in Canada, right?
That's right.
That's right. So I think to our listeners, our podcast looks a little bit different. We're actually live in person at the Western Canada Soil and Health Grazing Conference. And this is
sold out.
Yeah, it's a sold out conference. They actually added extra seats and sold those out right away. But we're here with Mike, and Mike has worms.
Totally.
Yeah, I got a lot of worms.
So tell us about that.
Yeah.
Well, having a lot of worms, that's a good thing. As a lot of people say, well, you can take a pill for that, but we're working on breeding them out every day. We started with about 10 million worms back in 2018. All they like to do is eat, breed, and produce worm castings, worm poop. And that's essentially nature's best fertilizer.
So our listeners who have never heard of this, I guess, what are the worm castings used for? And maybe how do they supplement or replace?
Yeah, well, everyone's always kind of known, from your grandmother or your parents, that worms are a good thing to see in your garden. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think it's because of they aerate the soil. Well, that's just one small part of what worms do for soil health. Worms have a unique ability to break down decaying matter and convert that into beneficial microbiology and enzymes and signals for plants. They will eat up to their own body weight every day. Worms are actually the smallest creature in the animal kingdom to have a brain, so they're intelligent. They will not eat a live root. They actually can take things that are maybe laden with pathogens like Salmonella coli, like manures, etc. Or even we feed lots of green waste, vegetables, fruit that we get from the food banks, the local grocery stores. We're actually taking over 100,000 pounds every week that would normally end up in landfill and feeding that to our 100 million worm employees. And for every pound of food we feed them, they'll generate 3/4 of a pound of worm castings out. And that really is you can't replicate that with any sort of synthetic fertilizer. It is just teeming with all these rich nutrients. And it's got to do with the enzymes in the gut lining of the worm that add all those beneficial microbes and bacteria, and that plants just respond so well to.
Yeah, I find it so interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, would I pick up a worm with my own hands? Okay, no. But what I'm wondering is for Annelida, are you for the regular household, or is this for huge acres of, would it be for ranch use, farm use?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. In the past, most worm farms were either, hobbyists, home composters, etc. There was more and more utilization of smaller worm farms collectively putting together like a cooperative of 30, 40 worm farms, and they would bag that product and it would go as a soil amendment into garden centers, etc. And that's really where we started. We started in Stony Plain back in 2018. We still have that facility. It's about 8,500 square feet, and we produce about 5,000 pounds a day of worm castings out of that facility. And we really make a big impact in that community as far as the diversion of green waste goes, because we're not only taking fruit, vegetables, we take the spent coffee grounds from the coffee shops.
Yeah.
Keeps the worms up all night eating, gets them all jacked up.
Yeah.
Even shredded cardboard. It's a good carbon source. So we really look at the nutrient diverse diet that we feed the worm, because at the end of the day, you are what you eat, and it's no different than it is for the worm. So the more nutrient-rich, diverse diet we give them, that presents itself in the castings that they produce. And so you really do see the results. So we scaled the operation up. We knew right away that we weren't going to really have enough to make an impact to make that leap into broad-scale agriculture. So we've now built out a facility in Nisku. It's about the size of a Costco. It's 90,000 square feet. So we're currently Canada's largest producer of high-value castings in Canada. We're producing 4 million pounds a year. And really what differentiates us from some of the other producers is that we have a patented process to take those castings and extract the diverse microbial biology and put that into a liquid extract, a liquid concentrate.
Right.
So that farmers can easily deploy that in with their existing systems. So either irrigation, fertigation, they can mix it in with their herbicidal pass so they don't have to do additional passes. And it really amplifies the biology in the soil, activating and putting Mother Nature into firing on all cylinders.
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting because your business partner, coworker, was saying so the castings can't go through an air seeder for like a farmer. So you have liquefied it so that it is more readily available and easier to apply for the large farms. I think it's so cool that one, you're utilizing the green waste in the surrounding communities where you are, but that, I mean, I've been around worms. Like I grew up in Texas, so we used to dig worms for fun, like when we were kids and stuff, because they're readily available. But I don't think I realized like the impact that they actually have on the environment.
Much needed.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept to take. Food waste to create products that aid in food production. The ESG and the circular aspect of that's is very powerful. And we do also have it in a granulated form that can go down with the seed drill. So right in furrow. So we do, because not all farmers are set up to apply liquid. So you can, depending on what type of equipment you have, whether it's granular or liquid, we have the ability to help. And it doesn't matter the crop. So it could be, cereal crops, it could be pasture land. But we even have one of our largest clients is in Ontario, and they're doing lawn, turf, and sports fields. So everything from home gardening, your house plants, to the large-scale vegetable farms, you name it. Anywhere you're looking to grow anything.
Grass in the desert. I like to say I live in the desert where the cactus grow. Is it going to help my grass?
I'm really curious, so there must be, is there an expiry date to this? Like I know that I actually grabbed a few packages of your product 2 years ago when I was at the Soil and Health Grazing Conference. And I'm actually using it one of these packages right now to revive a cactus that I got. And see if that works.
Bring it back from the dead?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm hoping.
Yeah, so the biology in itself, it does not have an expiry. It will be diminished with UV. UV does diminish biology. So as long as you don't let it dry out and you don't expose it to long durations of UV, that's why broadcasting worm castings out on your garden, not just on the surface, well, that's not a good way to do it. It's better to put it right in with the seed. Put it in that row where it's going to go to work right away. Even our liquid has a 37-month shelf life.
Oh, wow.
And that's because we've been producing it for 37 months. Next month, I'll tell you it's 38 months.
Right.
Because we're basically putting those microbes into a dormant state. And then once they're introduced to a food source, so you're either putting it into your soil and there's a food source for those microbes to get to work, or with farmers due to the fact that a lot of the conventional programs they've been utilizing are salt-based. Salt kills biology. So what we do is we have the food source for those microbes that you pair together and then apply it.
Compared to all the other things, because obviously there's so many different solutions that are offered here at the Soil Health and Grazing Conference. How would you describe this to anyone who's considering this from a financial standpoint, over the long period of time? I have not a clue on what this costs.
Yeah. And you know what? We get that question every day. And what we tell farmers right out the gate is we're not going to cost you any more money year one. We're going to put money back in your genes. And it's all got to do with dialing in the fertility and looking at what's their soil health like. A lot of agronomists are testing primarily for the chemical analysis on their soil composition. Well, we're working with, doing the analytics on not just the chemical, but the physical and the biological properties of the soil. How much of those nutrients are locked up, ammonium, et cetera, that are readily available, but they just need to be converted into a readily usable format for the plant to uptake. So we're helping farmers day one dial in their fertility, make it more efficient, and add biology into it to help complement that. So we did a corn trial here just north of us in Devon, and they reduced their fertility 60%. Planted on the same day, same field, adjoining fields, so same soil conditions. On one side of the fence, they had 450 pounds an acre, and on the other side, they did 200 pounds an acre of fertility, and saw a 40% increase in yield on that 200 pounds. So that's putting money back in the jeans of farmers, because they're always challenged with the price of fertilizer.
Yeah, for sure.
The commodity prices are fluctuating, so this really helps them look at that, dial that in. And so, they run their business like anybody. They have to look at profitability, and if it costs them more money, is that feasible?
Right.
So we do look at the yields and everything else, and it has to make business sense for the farmers.
Is this a product that you would use in conjunction with a fertilizer, like your typical fertilizer?
Yeah. So although there's a lot of organic growers out there, and so this is right in their wheelhouse because it is 100% natural. We have organic ratings on our castings and our liquids and our granular. But at the end of the day, 95% of our customer base are your conventional farmer looking to dial that in a bit and work with them with their conventional program, but just scaling it back a bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
It's almost like if you look at a bowl of cereal, there's only so much room in that bowl. And if you want to pour more into it, something's going to overflow. So you have to make a little bit of room. So what we recommend is a slight reduction on their current program, adding this in with it to complement it and make it more efficient.
Interesting. Do you have a question?
Who is this not for?
Well, you know what? You do get lots of regimented farmers and growers that they've done it like this for generations, and they understand and they're set in their ways. And granddad did it like this, so that's how I'm doing it. But you see a big shift coming with younger farmers coming up and saying, they're seeing more on YouTube and TikTok, and they're more aware of what's kind of going on, and they're aware that salt is killing the biology. They see these alkalinic, salinic patches growing where not even weeds will grow on their farms. And how do you revert that back? Well, you have to reintroduce natural biology to help make that more efficient and work your land like it's an asset, because your land is your biggest asset.
That's right.
And so just pouring more chemicals to it isn't necessarily the best thing. Now, there's definitely a place for NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's a matter of dialing that in. And so again, looking at the soil health and the analysis on that's really a part of educating yourself on what's going on with your particular land and how to best utilize that.
So is that something you do? So if a producer were to come to you and say, this is the land base they have and this is what is that a plan that you help tailor to them?
Yeah, so we work with Cropland Analytics. They're one of the few companies that are doing the full profile on soil analysis.
Okay.
And so they're looking at the biological, physical properties, water holding capacity, what's the microbial respiration and organic matter in your soil, because it's not just about that small realm. So it's expanding the vision and the testing. And so we are seeing that really start to catch on. So we can make an educated proposal on what they can do with their fertility program and how that ties in with the Annelida program that we're suggesting. And we're seeing some big results. We had our most extreme was this year, a farmer in southern Alberta, farming over 15,000 acres, cut their fertility 85% and saw a 23% increase in the regional average yield-wise. And that's huge. Staggering when you think about that. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's so much rainfall for fertilizer to flush through the root zone. And if you keep compounding it year over year, how much is built up in that soil? And if you're not testing for that to see really what's available, you just keep hitting it the same amount every year, it's staggering to see what's really built up there. Just put that to use and you'll see some results. Okay.
So I want to get started. I want to look into the Annelida program, see how it can be used in our operation, where do I start? What's the first thing I do?
Well, the first thing is, reach out to us, let us know, where you're at. We have representation really all across Canada now. We're doing work with potato farmers and sugar beet farmers in Ontario. We're doing, your cereal crops, vegetables, you
What
name
about
it.
hay?
Hay works amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually, and it's not just about the yield, and it's not just about all those other things. It's about relative feed value when you talk about silage and hay. And we've done some trials here in the last couple of years that show anywhere from a 20 to 50% increase in relative feed value on hay and silage when they're utilizing, properly balancing their fertility with, the nutrients that we're providing.
Okay.
So there's no real hang up. It's just a matter of, where are you at? What's your crop? What have you been applying for your fertility? And, for a couple of $90 soil tests,
Right.
We're not saying full grid testing. We usually go with the farmers, okay, let's take a soil sample from your low producing areas and your high producing area. And that gives us a benchmark as to where you're at. And then we can make a pretty good assertion as to what's happening on your farm.
Okay. So you help clients get that all set up
Absolutely,
and walk them through the process. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. So I had some just like random questions about worms because Mike, you were showing me pictures. So it's like, how long does a worm live? What's the lifespan of a worm?
For the red wigglers that we utilize, it's 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. That's cool. And then you were showing me the whole setup about how you feed them and all that. Interesting fact, my mom, so I grew up in Texas. My mom, when she was a teenager, her first job was digging worms. Yeah, and I can't remember exactly. She can tell me how much she got paid for however many worms that she dug, but that's really cool. And we used to, you could just like one shovel and you have earthworms. So that was, I don't know.
Charles Darwin actually developed and did research on worms and the benefit of worm castings. And he actually devised where you put a metal rod in the ground and take a leather strap and you simulate vibration.
Yep.
And the worms, that simulates raindrops. And the worms come to the surface. And that's how they still harvest worms using that technique today.
Yeah, and my mom talks about ways that they harvest them and would get them to come up to the top. So yeah, that's just a fun fact.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting.
I'm really excited. Congratulations to you and all of your partners in this, like from going from Stony Plain and then now into Nisku, having like a huge warehouse and then being one of Canada's largest producers of this. And in the fact that it's organic and the fact that you can actually use it in the house or for your own personal garden all the way to, if you're a large producer. So congratulations on your accomplishment.
Thanks. You wouldn't believe how many farm wives, the farmers come in and they say, well, my wife tried some of your products on the house plants. She said, I have to come down and sit with you to see what we could do for our fields.
I'm totally going to try it on my houseplants. I'm not the best plant mom, but I have been working on that. And so I'm going to implement this and I'm going to take before and after pictures and see what it does.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about what Annelida does. And
to our listeners, check out Annelida. Like if anything has your wheels turning and interests you, check out Annelida. You're on social media?
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
we'll put the links in the show notes.
As well.
All right.
Much appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad you leaned in with us on the WinEH podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.